Greetings Warhammer enthusiast. Before you stands a voice assistant of the podcast, dedicated to spreading the greater good. If you find this information useful, please do not hesitate to leave a like and subscribe. Together, we shall explore the depths of the Warhammer universe and share in its wonders. Vulkan, one of the 20 Primarchs created by the Emperor of Mankind, was an extraordinary figure in the Warhammer 40k universe. As the progenitor and leader of the Salamanders Space Marine Legion, Vulkan played a crucial role in the Emperor's Great Crusade to reunite humanity's scattered remnants across the galaxy. As a Primarch, Vulkan was an exceptional specimen, possessing superhuman abilities that far exceeded those of average humans and even regular Space Marines. His towering stature, incredible strength, and exceptional intellect set him apart from others. Additionally, he inherited a unique aspect from his father, the Emperor, the ability to regenerate from any injury, even those that would completely vaporize him. This made Vulkan a perpetual, rendering him virtually immortal. During the course of battle, Vulkan consistently prioritizes minimizing civilian casualties, even when his decisions are met with skepticism by his fellow Primarch Ferrus Manus and members of his own legion. His deep-rooted sense of compassion and empathy are thought to align closely with the Emperor's vision of a peaceful and united Imperium. In addition to his compassionate nature, Vulkan is also the largest and most physically powerful of all the Primarchs. When clad in his power armor, he stands as tall as Horus wearing his own, more extensive, Terminator armor. Vulkan's immense strength allows him to perform feats such as overturning Space Marine battle tanks using only his bare hands. Despite his unparalleled physical prowess, Vulkan is acutely aware of his own power and exercises restraint during sparring matches with his brother Primarchs, fearing that he may inadvertently cause them harm. Vulkan's unique combination of physical might and compassion sets him apart from his brothers, making him a beloved and respected figure in the Imperium. His actions and decisions demonstrate the importance of empathy and the value of human life, even amidst the brutal and unforgiving realities of war. When the Primarchs were scattered across the galaxy by the forces of chaos, Vulkan found himself on the volcanic, harsh world of Nocturne. This event coincided with the time of trial, a challenging period for Nocturne's inhabitants. As an infant, Vulkan was discovered by Enbel, a skilled blacksmith who took the young Primarch under his wing. Enbel named Vulkan after the first king of the Salamanders, a legendary figure in Nocturne's history, and raised him as his own son. Vulkan's growth was nothing short of astonishing. Within just 3 years, he had outgrown the physical and mental capacities of any adult in his town. His immense size, strength, and intelligence set him apart from the others. Moreover, his talent for blacksmithing was unparalleled, allowing him to teach advanced forging techniques to his fellow townspeople, even though he was still a child. The people of Nocturne were frequently subjected to raids by the sinister Dark Eldar. These raids were so common that the inhabitants had devised individual hiding places to evade capture. However, when the Dark Eldar struck again during Vulkan's 4th year on Nocturne, the young Primarch chose a different path. Instead of hiding, Vulkan defiantly stood in the center of the settlement, wielding his 2 smithing hammers as weapons. Inspired by his courage and determination, the townspeople rallied around him, ready to stand their ground and defend their home. With Vulkan leading the charge, they decisively defeated the Dark Eldar, who had never before faced such fierce resistance. Vulkan himself slew 100 Eldar that day, further solidifying his status as a legendary figure on Nocturne. In the aftermath of this victory, the leaders of the 7 largest towns on Nocturne journeyed to meet Vulkan. They were in awe of his abilities and inspired by his unyielding spirit. United under Vulkan's leadership, they vowed never again to cower in fear or hide from the raiders that plagued their world. This crucial event marked the beginning of Vulkan's ascent to prominence, and foreshadowed his eventual role as the Primarch of the Salamanders Space Marine Legion. The people of Nocturne would continue to revere and support him as he embarked on the Emperor's Great Crusade, leaving an indelible mark on the galaxy and forging a legacy that would endure for millennia to come. In the wake of Vulkan's heroic victory over the Eldar Raiders, the people of Nocturne decided to hold a grand tournament to celebrate their Primarch's triumph. As the festivities commenced, an unexpected guest arrived. This stranger, pale-skinned and clad in unusual attire, requested to join the competition. He boldly claimed that he could best anyone in the town, a statement met with laughter and disbelief. After all, who could possibly surpass Vulkan in intellect, strength, craftsmanship, or endurance? Nonetheless, Vulkan accepted the challenge, and the two competitors agreed that the loser would serve the victor henceforth. The tournament lasted for 8 days, with Vulkan and the stranger participating in numerous contests that tested their physical and mental prowess. One such challenge, the Anvil Lift, saw both competitors holding anvils above their heads for half a day before the contest was declared a tie. By the end of the 8th day, Vulkan and the stranger were deadlocked, neither having gained an advantage over the other. The final event of the tournament required the contestants to forge a weapon within 24 hours, and then use it to hunt and slay the largest salamander they could find. Ascending a towering mountain, Vulkan and the stranger each set out to find a drake. Vulkan soon encountered and killed a massive fire drake, but as he made his way back, the mountain, which happened to be a volcano, erupted. This unexpected eruption sent Vulkan tumbling over a cliff, where he clung to life with one hand while gripping his slain drake with the other. Vulkan hung there for hours, his strength gradually waning. He realized that he would soon be forced to choose between the drake and his own life. Just as he reached this conclusion, the stranger appeared, carrying an even larger drake. Quickly assessing the situation, the stranger tossed his drake into a lava flow that separated them, using it as a makeshift bridge to reach Vulkan. The stranger then pulled Vulkan to safety, and together, they returned to the town, leaving the stranger's drake to burn in the molten river. Although the stranger's drake had been larger, he had sacrificed it to save Vulkan, returning empty-handed. As a result, Vulkan was declared the winner of the tournament. However, in a stunning display of humility and wisdom, Vulkan knelt before the stranger, declaring that anyone who valued life over pride was worthy of his service. It was then that the stranger revealed his true identity: he was none other than the Emperor of mankind. With this revelation, Vulkan and his father, the Emperor, were finally reunited, setting the stage for their future collaboration in the Great Crusade to reunite humanity. Initially, after being reunited with the Emperor, Vulkan did not immediately join his legion. Instead, he remained by his father's side, learning from the Emperor and fighting alongside him. This period of tutelage allowed Vulkan to grow and develop as both a warrior and a leader under the Emperor's guidance. When the time came for Vulkan to be reunited with his legion, he did so in a dramatic fashion. Leading a fleet carrying 3,000 new recruits, Vulkan's forces arrived just in time to save his legion from being overrun by a massive orc horde. This timely intervention solidified Vulkan's place as the leader of his Space Marine Legion. It was eventually decided that Vulkan's legion would be renamed the Salamanders, in honor of the creature that had played a pivotal role in his reunion with the Emperor. Vulkan continued to serve loyally throughout the Great Crusade, leading his legion in numerous battles and campaigns in the Emperor's name. One such campaign took place on a world designated 1546, also known as Crusade. During this operation, Vulkan and the Salamanders fought alongside the Night Lords, led by their Primarch, Conrad Kurz. They were also supported by the Mechanicum's Legio Ignis, as well as several Imperial army regiments. However, this campaign would prove to be a contentious one, as Vulkan became increasingly disturbed by Kurz and the Night Lord's brutal methods of warfare. Vulkan's anger reached its boiling point when he discovered that the Night Lords had slaughtered an entire city's population to instill fear in the hearts of the remaining inhabitants. This revelation led to a heated confrontation between Vulkan and Kurz, with the two Primarchs engaging in a fierce verbal exchange. Once the campaign on Karaten had concluded, Vulkan reported Kurz's actions to War Master Horus and Primarch Rogaldorn of the Imperial Fists. Despite his objections to Kurz's tactics, Vulkan himself experienced a moment of rage during the battle against the ruling Eldar Coven on Karaten. The death of a remembrancer named Seraph pushed Vulkan over the edge, causing him to kill a surrendering Eldar child in a fit of anger. This act would haunt the Primarch for the remainder of his life, serving as a painful reminder of the darkness that even the noblest of warriors can harbor within themselves. On the world of 1544, Vulkan and his forces encountered tribes of primitive humans coexisting with exodite Eldar. Contrary to expectations, the humans did not welcome the Imperial forces with open arms. Instead, Vulkan found himself guided by a mysterious remembrancer, who was later revealed to be a psychic projection of the Emperor, towards a webway portal. After a fierce battle near the portal, Vulkan came across a group of human tribals preparing to sacrifice a Dark Eldar woman. He learned that these humans had come to fear the Dark Eldar raiders and sought to offer the woman as a sacrifice to prevent the raiders from returning, now that the Exodites had been vanquished. To Vulkan's astonishment, he realized that the Dark Eldar woman was part of the raiding parties that had terrorized Nocturne during his childhood, and that the humans were descendants of Nocturne captives who had been liberated by the Eldar. Understanding that the Emperor had guided him to this revelation, Vulkan acknowledged that these humans would never accept the Imperium's rule over their Eldar liberators. Consequently, he ordered the planet to be cleansed, seeking to eradicate any evidence of human Xenos cooperation. Later, when Vulkan presented his protest regarding the campaign to War Master Horus, he sensed a profound darkness within his brother Primarch. This troubling realization led Vulkan to withhold from Horus the gift of the Hammer Dawnbringer. The events on 1544 highlighted the complexities and challenges faced by the Imperium as it sought to unite humanity under a single banner. Despite his noble intentions, Vulkan was forced to make difficult decisions that weighed heavily on his conscience, demonstrating the harsh realities of war and the sacrifices required in the pursuit of a unified human empire. Vulkan found himself alongside Ferrus Manus of the Iron Hands and Corax of the Raven Guard during the infamous Isstvan V drop site massacre. The betrayal by their fellow Primarchs during this event marked a turning point in the Horus heresy, as the once brotherly bonds between the legions fractured irreparably. As the battle raged on, the majority of the Salamanders' legion was decimated by nuclear missiles launched by the treacherous Iron Warriors. Vulkan's unique perpetual abilities allowed him to survive the explosion, but he soon found himself surrounded by hundreds of Iron Warriors and Night Lords warriors. Fighting with the ferocity and determination of a true Primarch, Vulkan endured countless injuries, eventually succumbing to the onslaught and losing consciousness. Seizing the opportunity to torment his brother, Conrad Kurz, the Primarch of the Night Lords, took Vulkan prisoner. Over the next several months, Kurz attempted to break Vulkan's spirit and kill him through various gruesome methods. Kurz personally beheaded Vulkan, ripped out his throat with a fork, impaled him through the chest, and dismembered him limb from limb. Furthermore, Vulkan was subjected to evisceration, being shot with hundreds of bolters at close range, left in the venting shaft of a starship's engine, and even thrown naked into the vacuum of space. Despite the horrific nature of these ordeals, Vulkan's body would regenerate completely each time, leaving Kurz increasingly enraged. Frustrated and bored with his inability to kill Vulkan, Kurz sought to force Vulkan to admit that he was no less a monster than Kurz himself. To this end, Kurz enlisted the aid of several Davanite priests to ensnare Vulkan's mind, subjecting him to a series of trials in which he was destined to fail, resulting in the deaths of innocent people. Undeterred, Vulkan refused to break under the mental and emotional torment inflicted upon him. Determined to end their twisted game, Kurz challenged Vulkan to a duel. To reach the battleground, Vulkan was forced to navigate a maze designed by the devious Perturabo, Primarch of the Iron Warriors. At the heart of the maze, Vulkan discovered his personal hammer, Dawnbringer, surrounded by the lifeless bodies of several of his fallen comrades. Retrieving his weapon, Vulkan managed to overpower Kurz and activated a teleporter built into the head of the hammer. In a desperate bid to escape his tormentor, Vulkan found himself transported across the galaxy, appearing in the upper atmosphere of Macragge. As he plummeted towards the surface, his body burned up upon re-entry. Confident in his regenerative abilities, Vulkan hoped to awaken under the care of the Ultramarines, far from the clutches of Kurz and the other traitorous legions. Vulkan's experiences during the Horus Heresy and his confrontation with Kurz highlighted the grim realities of the conflict that had engulfed the galaxy. The Primarchs, once united as brothers, had become bitter enemies, willing to inflict unimaginable suffering upon one another in their quest for dominance. As Vulkan struggled to survive and maintain his sanity amidst the darkness of the heresy, his unbreakable spirit and indomitable will served as an inspiration to his legion, and a testament to the noble ideals that the Salamanders sought to uphold. Vulkan's charred remains were eventually discovered by the Ultramarines, who initially mistook the scorched corpse for a grotesque statue, the living matter having been completely incinerated during re-entry. Over the course of several days, however, Vulkan's body miraculously began to regenerate. To the astonishment of the Ultramarines apothecaries entrusted with his care, the Primarch eventually returned to life. Recognizing Vulkan's true identity, the apothecaries hastily summoned their own Primarch, Robout Guilliman. Confused and frustrated by the lack of information regarding how or why Vulkan had fallen from the sky, Guilliman was horrified to find that his brother Primarch was mentally shattered. Vulkan was now unpredictable, prone to violent outbursts and incoherent ramblings. Unbeknownst to everyone, a strange bond had formed between Vulkan and his tormentor, Conrad Kurz, allowing Vulkan to sense the Night Haunter's presence. Kurz, having been trapped aboard the Dark Angel's flagship, the Invincible Reason, had managed to escape and steal a drop pod to the surface of Macragge. Driven by the connection between them, Vulkan broke free of his restraints, raided Guilliman's private armory, and set off on a relentless hunt for Kurz. The two Primarchs engaged in a brutal battle across an entire city, with Vulkan gradually realizing the full extent of his regenerative abilities. By concentrating his will, he discovered that he could accelerate the process of regeneration significantly. At one point during the confrontation, Kurz shot Vulkan's head off, causing him to fall from a cliff. Astonishingly, Vulkan was alive and fully regenerated before even hitting the ground. This intense and destructive pursuit between the two Primarchs highlighted the deep-rooted animosity that had grown between them during the Horus Heresy. The bond that had formed as a result of Kurz's relentless torment became a catalyst for the volatile encounter on Macragge. The mental and emotional damage inflicted upon Vulkan during his captivity served as a testament to the darker aspects of the conflict that had embroiled the galaxy. The relentless and violent duel between Vulkan and Kurz was finally halted by the intervention of the perpetual John Grammaticus. The Cabal, a secret alliance of ancient Xenos races, had tasked Grammaticus with the mission of permanently killing Vulkan using the Fulgurite, a unique artifact that was a petrified bolt of the Emperor's own psychic abilities. According to the Cabal, only a Primarch could successfully kill another Primarch, and they instructed Grammaticus to deliver the Fulgurite to Kurz. However, before Grammaticus could complete his mission, he encountered the enigmatic Eldar Farseer, Eldrad Ulthran. Eldrad proposed an alternative plan to Grammaticus. If he were to use the Fulgurite to kill Vulkan himself, he would sacrifice his own perpetual nature and become mortal, but in exchange, Vulkan's shattered mind would be fully restored. The presence and abilities of another Primarch in the Emperor's armies would tip the balance of the ongoing Horus heresy against the traitorous Warmaster Horus. Despite the risks, Grammaticus agreed to the plan and, in a decisive moment, plunged the Fulgurite into Vulkan's heart. The result was a devastating psychic explosion that claimed both of their lives. As a perpetual, Grammaticus was able to regenerate, but he knew that this would be his last life. He had sacrificed his perpetual nature in the hope of restoring Vulkan. Unfortunately, Vulkan did not recover as anticipated. The consequences of Grammaticus's actions reverberated throughout the Imperium, as the ongoing Horus heresy continued to tear apart the once united legions. The desperate gamble to restore Vulkan's sanity and return a loyal Primarch to the Emperor's forces ultimately failed, leaving the Imperium to face the darkness of the heresy with one less guiding light. Following the tragic events involving Vulkan and John Grammaticus, the Primarchs Robout Guilliman, Lion L. Johnson, and Sanguinius took it upon themselves to recover Vulkan's lifeless body. They placed his remains in a stasis capsule, meticulously handcrafted by Guilliman himself, and inscribed the words, "Unbound Flame," on its side as a tribute to the fallen Primarch. In an act of solidarity, the remaining Salamanders who had survived the turmoil and made it to Macragge were granted permission to stand guard over their fallen Primarch. They remained steadfast in their duty, awaiting the day when Vulkan's body could be returned to his homeworld of Nocturne. During their vigil, the Salamanders occasionally thought they detected a faint heartbeat emanating from the stasis capsule, but dismissed it as a mere figment of their imagination. With a firm belief that Vulkan could be resurrected, Artellus Numion, a Salamander's captain, led a daring expedition to return their Primarch's body to Nocturne. They faced numerous trials and tribulations along the way, but their unwavering faith in Vulkan's potential return kept them going. Once they reached Nocturne, they embarked on a perilous journey to Mount Deathfire, a sacred site for the Salamanders, with Vulkan's body in tow. Upon reaching the heart of Mount Deathfire, Artellus Numion made the ultimate sacrifice, offering his own life in a desperate bid to restore Vulkan's. Miraculously, this act of selflessness served as the catalyst for Vulkan's resurrection. The Unbound Flame, a powerful and mysterious force, surged through Vulkan, bringing him back from the brink of death and restoring him to his former strength and glory. The resurrection of Vulkan marked a significant turning point for the Salamanders and the Imperium as a whole. The return of a Primarch, especially one as revered and steadfast as Vulkan, provided a much-needed beacon of hope amidst the darkness and despair of the ongoing Horus heresy. Bolstered by the renewed presence of their leader, the Salamanders and the Imperium prepared to face the challenges ahead, united in their determination to restore order and protect humanity from the insidious forces that sought to tear it apart. Upon his resurrection, Vulkan found himself in a disoriented state, similar to a fugue, with fragmented memories. He awoke deep within the volcanic recesses of Mount Deathfire, where he encountered an enigmatic old man who claimed to be the personification of Deathfire itself. The old man urged Vulkan to make his way to Terra and presented him with two items that he had no recollection of forging: the mighty thunder hammer Yggdrasil and the talisman of 7 hammers. As Vulkan regained consciousness, he found himself at the base of Mount Deathfire, where he was discovered by 3 of his legionaries, Atok Abademi, Berek Zytos, and Ijan Gargo. Vulkan commanded the trio to return in 3 days, with strict instructions not to reveal his return to Nocturne. When they returned, now designated as Vulkan's Draxwood, the Primarch used the talisman of 7 hammers to access a hidden webway portal deep beneath Nocturne. The journey that followed was an arduous one, as Vulkan and his Draxwood navigated through the labyrinthine network of webway tunnels and exits in their quest to reach Terra. Along the way, they found themselves in a satellite realm of the Dark Eldar city of Komara, where they were forced to battle against the cruel and malicious Dark Eldar. Afterward, they encountered the fleet of Shadrach Medicine, who was still waging a guerrilla war against the forces of Horus. Vulkan discovered Medicine's fleet in a state of chaos, with the enigmatic cult of the Gorgon claiming that they had resurrected Ferrus Manus. Upon meeting the supposedly reborn Ferrus, Vulkan realized that it was nothing more than a grotesque mechanical puppet with one of Ferrus' metallic arms attached. Deeply saddened by this desecration of his brother's memory, Vulkan destroyed the puppet with a single swing of his hammer. Vulkan declined to participate in Medicine's ongoing war and, during the Battle of the Arachna Chain, decided to leave for the planet Caldera. There, he was greeted by Eldar emissaries who guided him to a new webway portal under the direction of the enigmatic Farseer Eldrad Ulthran. Once inside the webway again, Vulkan and his Draxwood companions embarked on a journey to Calasta, a place that had been long abandoned since the devastating war within the webway. Upon their arrival in Calasta, they were immediately besieged by hordes of demons, and Vulkan found himself locked in a fierce battle with the monstrous Great Unclean One, Agalba. Utilizing the power of the talisman of 7 hammers, Vulkan not only managed to defeat the vile demon, but also inflicted a true death upon it, ensuring its eternal demise. As Vulkan and his companions continued to face the relentless onslaught of demonic forces, they were unexpectedly rescued by the enigmatic Eldrad, who revealed himself as the old man from Mount Deathfire. Eldrad informed Vulkan that the original path into the Imperial dungeon had been sealed off by the Emperor himself. In response, he opened a new portal that transported Vulkan and his warriors directly to the entrance of the Imperial Palace. Overwhelmed with relief, Vulkan was reunited with his brother, Rogel Dorn, who welcomed him back with open arms. Vulkan was promptly escorted by the Adeptus Custodes to the heart of the Imperial Palace. As Vulkan stood before the Emperor on the Golden Throne, he learned that his entire journey had been carefully orchestrated by the Emperor himself. The Emperor had not only been anticipating Vulkan's arrival but had been the guiding force behind his creation of the Thunder Hammer Yggdrasil, and the Talisman of 7 Hammers. The Emperor revealed to Vulkan the true purpose of his existence and the crucial role he was meant to play during these trying times. Vulkan was destined to construct the talisman and oversee its ultimate purpose, a weapon of unparalleled power, designed as a dead man's switch that would obliterate Terra should Horus succeed in his dark ambitions. The talisman's activation would annihilate the world, denying it as a prize to the insidious forces of chaos. Vulkan was horrified by the prospect of being responsible for such a devastating act. However, the Emperor reassured him that he was chosen for this duty precisely, because he had always been the most reluctant to use the weapons he forged. The Emperor believed that Vulkan's strong moral compass would ensure that the talisman's power would only be unleashed as a last resort. With a heavy heart, Vulkan accepted the responsibility entrusted to him. He proceeded to install the talisman into the very core of the Golden Throne, ensuring its seamless integration with the colossal device. Once the task was complete, Vulkan took up his position by the Eternity Gate, prepared to make the ultimate sacrifice should the need arise. As the battle for the fate of the Imperium raged on, Vulkan stood steadfast, ready to make an impossible decision that would determine the future of humanity. The weight of his duty was immense, but he knew that he must remain resolute in the face of darkness for the sake of all those who fought alongside him in the name of the Emperor. During the Siege of Terra, Vulkan's existence was kept a secret from all but a select few, ensuring that his presence remained unknown to the enemy. His role in the conflict would come to the fore when Magnus the Red and a group of his 1,000 sons infiltrated the Imperial dungeon with the intention of assassinating the Emperor. As Magnus prepared to strike a lethal blow at the Emperor's form upon the Golden Throne, Vulkan intervened, blocking the attack and saving his father. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Vulkan decided to join the Emperor in attempting to persuade Magnus to return to the side of the Imperium. However, their efforts were in vain as Magnus refused the offer of redemption, particularly after the Emperor informed him that his legion would need to be purged due to the rampant mutations that plagued them. Though Vulkan empathized with Magnus and admitted that he might have made the same choice in his position, he couldn't stand idly by as his brother threatened the Emperor. As a result, Vulkan and Magnus found themselves locked in an intense duel within the throne room. The battle raged on, with both Primarchs displaying their immense power and skill. Vulkan was saved from a potentially fatal strike by the selfless intervention of Gargo, one of his loyal Draxwood. Horrified by Gargo's death and filled with a renewed determination, Vulkan took up his Thunder Hammer and, wielding twin hammers, managed to overpower Magnus. Just as he was about to deliver the final blow, however, Magnus fully succumbed to the powers of chaos and vanished from the throne room, leaving Vulkan to grapple with the implications of their brutal confrontation. As the Siege of Terra continued, Magnus took refuge within the Imperial webway, enacting a dangerous psychic ritual designed to drain the Emperor's already diminished strength. In response, Malcador the Sigillite dispatched Vulkan to put an end to Magnus' machinations and protect the Emperor from further harm. With the Eternity Gate under siege, Vulkan ventured into the webway, undeterred by the lies and taunts hurled at him by his brother along the way. Navigating the twisting, complex paths of the webway, Vulkan eventually reached the Impossible City, an ancient and enigmatic location at the heart of the webway. It was there that he finally came face to face with Magnus. Determined to end his brother's treachery, Vulkan refused to be swayed by any further manipulations or illusions, including a harrowing vision of the burning of Prospero, an event that had marked the tragic downfall of Magnus and the 1,000 Sons. As the two Primarchs squared off, an epic battle ensued within the Impossible City. Both Vulkan and Magnus unleashed their full might upon each other, with Vulkan demonstrating his legendary strength and resilience, while Magnus wielded his unparalleled psychic powers. The clash of titans reverberated throughout the webway, as the two brothers, once united by their father's vision for the Imperium, now found themselves locked in a deadly struggle with the fate of the Emperor and the galaxy hanging in the balance. In the heat of their battle within the Impossible City, Vulkan initially struggled to land a blow on Magnus, who had enveloped himself in a shroud of smoke. It soon became apparent that the real Magnus was hiding behind a psychic barrier, focusing on his ritual to weaken the Emperor. Seizing the opportunity, Vulkan smashed through the already compromised barrier, forcing Magnus to abandon his ritual and confront Vulkan directly in order to complete his dark work. Magnus tried everything in his power to kill his brother. He beheaded Vulkan with his khopesh, turned his lungs to amber in an attempt to suffocate him, drained him of his blood, and even engulfed him in psychic flames. However, nothing seemed to work. As a perpetual, Vulkan would regenerate each time, relentlessly returning to his assault on Magnus. Eventually, attrition took its toll on the Crimson King, and Magnus grew increasingly desperate. In a final bid to sway Vulkan, Magnus entered his mind in the form of his former noble self, attempting to justify his actions. But Vulkan would have none of it. He chastised Magnus for his arrogance and reckless use of sorcery, which had ultimately led him to become a pawn of chaos. As the battle raged on in the webway, Vulkan stood over Magnus, poised to deliver the killing blow. Despite the Emperor's voice urging him to kill his brother, Vulkan hesitated. Seizing this moment of indecision, Magnus unleashed the full power of the spell he had been working on, unraveling Vulkan at a genetic level in a last-ditch effort to kill him once and for all. As Vulkan's body began to disintegrate, he mustered the strength to swing his hammer one last time, striking Magnus' head with Yggdrasil and banishing him into the warp. Against all odds, Vulkan's regenerating form was later seen slowly making its way back to the webway portal that led to the Imperial Palace, his trusty weapon, Yggdrasil, still firmly in hand. This epic confrontation between the two Primarchs would leave a lasting impact on the fate of the Imperium, and the ongoing struggle between the forces of order and chaos. Vulkan eventually made his way back into the throne room through the webway gate, only to be greeted with the news that the vengeful spirit, Horus flagship, had lowered its void shields. The Emperor himself was preparing to lead an assault on the vessel in a desperate attempt to end the conflict. However, Vulkan was told by his father that he would not be participating in this crucial battle. Instead, he was tasked with the responsibility of guarding the Golden Throne while Malkador the Sigillite took the Emperor's place on it. Vulkan was given explicit instructions: should the traitors manage to breach the palace, he was to activate the Talisman of Seven Hammers, a devastating weapon that would consume all of Terra, denying it to the forces of chaos. This monumental responsibility weighed heavily on Vulkan's shoulders. Mere hours later, Vulkan encountered a Lanius person, John Grammaticus, and their group as they finally reached the Imperial Palace. It was there that he learned from Acti about a prophecy which foretold Horus as the Dark King, potentially becoming the fifth Chaos God. This revelation underscored the importance of Vulkan's duty to protect the Golden Throne, and stand ready to activate the Talisman of Seven Hammers, should the unthinkable happen. Vulkan's steadfast determination to fulfill his duty, and the heavy burden placed upon him by the Emperor served as a testament to his unwavering loyalty and commitment to the Imperium. With the future of humanity hanging in the balance, the stalwart Primarch would stand guard, prepared to make the ultimate sacrifice if necessary. In the aftermath of the Horus Heresy, Vulkan was among the Primarchs who opposed the Codex Astartes, a tome authored by Robout Guilliman to restructure the Space Marine legions into smaller, more manageable units called chapters. Vulkan's opposition, however, was not due to disloyalty or lack of courage. Instead, it stemmed from the devastating losses his legion, the Salamanders, had suffered during the drop site massacre at Isstvan V. With their ranks reduced to only a few, Vulkan questioned the necessity of further dividing his already diminished legion. During the Great Scouring, a campaign to purge the galaxy of the remaining traitor legions, Vulkan was enraged by the atrocities committed against Terra's populace by the Emperor's children, particularly those orchestrated by the twisted apothecary Fabius Bile. Driven by a thirst for justice, Vulkan embarked on a personal quest to hunt down and eliminate the malevolent Bile. Eventually, Vulkan made the difficult decision to leave the Salamanders, mirroring the actions of Layman Russ, the Primarch of the Space Wolves. He declared that he would return during the end times, a prophecy foretelling a period of great strife and turmoil for the Imperium. With this proclamation, Vulkan disappeared, leaving his legion behind as he embarked on an unknown journey. His absence persisted for the next 1,500 years, shrouding the Primarch's fate in mystery. Throughout this period, Vulkan's legend persisted, his deeds serving as a source of inspiration for the Salamanders and other space marines who continued to fight in the name of the Emperor. Although Vulkan's whereabouts and eventual return remained uncertain, his enduring legacy continued to shape the course of Imperial history. Approximately 1,500 years after Vulkan's disappearance, he resurfaced during the War of the Beast, a devastating conflict against a colossal orc invasion led by an immensely powerful war boss known as the Beast. Vulkan made his presence known on the imperial world of Caldera, where he single-handedly defended the planet from the relentless onslaught of the Greenskins. Despite dying numerous times in battle, Vulkan's perpetual nature allowed him to regenerate and rejoin the fray time and time again, leading the fight against the orc invaders. The Inquisition uncovered Vulkan's heroic stand on Caldera, prompting the Lord Commander of the Imperium, Corland, to lead an expedition to the embattled world in the hopes of recruiting the Primarch for a counteroffensive against the Beast. Upon locating Vulkan, the Primarch initially refused to join the mission until Caldera was secured from the orc threat, citing a long-standing vow he had made to protect the world from falling to ruin. With the assistance of Corland and the Imperial forces, Vulkan successfully thwarted the destruction of Caldera by demolishing the attack moon's construction generator. Having saved Caldera, Vulkan accompanied Corland back to Terra, where he took command of the beleaguered Imperium. He chastised the High Lords for their petty infighting and inefficiency, but chose not to purge them in order to maintain unity within the Imperium. Vulkan officially took command of the Crusade to Ullanor with the objective of finding and slaying the Beast once and for all. However, in reality, he delegated most of the planning and details to Corland, whom he fully supported. Instead, Vulkan devoted his time to tinkering with his weapon, Doom Tremor, and remained isolated in his chambers aboard the Fist's Exemplar's battle barge, Alcathar Remembered. This initial isolation discouraged many, but Vulkan's spirits were lifted as he plunged into the heart of the battle when the Imperial forces reached Gorkogrod, the capital city of Ullanor. As the battle intensified, Vulkan led the final charge into the Beast's enormous temple gargant and faced the towering warboss head-on. Recognizing that Vulkan had always intended to fight the Beast alone and realizing that he himself could do little to help, Corland ordered an evacuation from the temple as the two titanic figures clashed. The 10-meter-tall warboss revealed his fluency in perfect Imperial Gothic, taunting that humanity was on the brink of collapse and that he would be its downfall. Vulkan grappled with the warboss, and they both tumbled into the temple gargant's power generator. There, the Primarch became suffused with immense amounts of War energies. Rather than succumbing to the energies as so many others had, Vulkan channeled his primal and savage essence to become one with the Force and launch a final, devastating attack. He thrust Doom Tremor into the Beast's face and detonated the generator, setting off a chain reaction that tore the temple gargant apart and seemingly wiped both Vulkan and the Beast from existence. Vulkan's presumed death at the hands of the Beast left a significant impact on the Imperium. Corland commemorated his sacrifice, ensuring that his heroism would be etched into the annals of history and remembered for generations to come. However, Vulkan's own Space Marine chapter, the Salamanders, never lost faith in their Primarch. They continued to search for him, even into the grim darkness of the 41st millennium. The Salamanders firmly believed that Vulkan would return to them once they had found all 9 of the fabled artifacts of Vulkan. These powerful relics, forged by the Primarch himself, were scattered throughout the galaxy, hidden or lost during the tumultuous history of the Imperium. The quest to find these artifacts became a sacred mission for the Salamanders, a testament to their unwavering loyalty and devotion to their Primarch. Each of these artifacts is said to possess immense power, imbued with Vulkan's craftsmanship and the essence of his indomitable spirit. The Salamanders hoped that by collecting all 9 artifacts, they could not only restore their Primarch to his rightful place, but also strengthen their chapter in its ongoing struggle against the myriad enemies of the Imperium. As the Salamanders continued their relentless search, they encountered countless challenges, including hostile alien races, treacherous war zones, and the insidious corruption of chaos. Despite these obstacles, the Salamanders remained steadfast in their belief that Vulkan would one day return and lead them to ultimate victory in the name of the Emperor. This enduring legend of Vulkan's return is a testament to the unbreakable bond between the Primarch and his Space Marine chapter. It serves as a beacon of hope for the Salamanders, and a powerful reminder of the indomitable spirit of humanity in the face of overwhelming darkness.